Hello again, everyone. It occurred to me that I don't really have any P-51 or TF-51 videos on this channel. I've got some on my other channel, but never done it here. So let's teach everybody how to start up the P-51. Today we'll be using the training Mustang. You see how there's a rear seat in there. There would be controls too, except they haven't included it. It's kind of like this is a modification that you would do to a Mustang to take people for a ride. On a full PF-51, there's a fuel tank back there instead of a seat. That fuel tank is filled up through that filler you see right there. But the P-51 has so much range that it doesn't really matter. And we've got two full wing tanks, left and right. So, first thing we do, press our brakes down. I'll show you my feet. Toe brakes down, pull the brake handle out, release the toe brakes, and now the parking brake's on. Sorry, I just need to adjust my track IR there. And then you turn on the generator and the battery. Cockpit lights we don't need, it's daytime. Master fuel shut off. You always start on the left fuel tank because that's where the engine fuel overflow drains back into. If you started on the right, then you could potentially overfill the left tank and you'd end up pissing out fuel on the ground, wasting fuel. And also maybe making a fire hazard, although I don't think that's much of a concern, certainly not in DCS. Magnetos, both. Open up the starter. Let me get rid of my body here so we can see what's going on. Crack the throttle. Prop pitch all the way forward. Rudder trim, put it to about 6. And just to help keep your nose down while you're on your takeoff roll so you don't take off too early, I put the nose trim a little bit forward. Unfiltered rammed air is fine for takeoff, and we'll raise the flaps entirely. So now all you do, we need to prime it for a few seconds. 2, 3, 4. It's actually pretty cold out today. 5, 6, 7. Yeah, it's only about 15 degrees Celsius out. I'm reading that off of here. With a cold start, the engine temperature is the same as the outside temperature, of course. Fuel booster pump, almost forgot that. Important. Okay, and then we hold the starter switch, and then I'm going to press, I've got M mapped to my mixture control, and we're going to turn it 1 forward to run as soon as the prop is turning. So, starter, mixture, and there it goes. It's that easy. Now, you see how our oil pressure is way too high? That's because we're cold. If that oil pressure gets too high, we can blow a gasket or hurt the engine in other ways, and that would not be good. So we can't fly yet. We have to warm it up. And the higher the RPM we go, the more that oil pressure goes up. So you keep it around 1,000. Now, I'm in an online server, so I can't speed up time. We have to wait, I don't know, a good 5 minutes here to get the temperature up. Close that starter cover. So, what can we do to speed that up? We can do this. Fuel dilute, oil dilute. We're now squirting gasoline into our engine oil, which is going to thin it out. So the whole idea here is that the oil pressure is high because the oil is thick and cold. So there's 2 ways to get the oil thin. One is to warm it up, which we're doing, but we can speed that up by diluting the oil with fuel, and we're doing that as well. So normally you have to wait for the temperature to get to 40 degrees C on that temperature scale at the top there. But with a few, and it takes quite a while, doesn't squirt it in too fast. But eventually diluting the fuel will actually let us get that oil pressure down well before we reach flying temperature. So if you're in a big hurry, also if you're starting up in winter, you want to oil dilute as a rule. So if it's sub-zero, give it some oil dilution. It's coming down now, so there's our 1000 RPM. What if we bring it up just to the bottom of the green there? So that would be much higher if we weren't diluting the oil. We can keep it there for the moment. The extra speed will help it warm up faster. Extra RPM, I should say. Still diluting. Here it comes. Oh, the temperature's going up too. This has changed a little bit recently. It used to not take this long. That's our engine RPM. That's our manifold pressure. Almost never look at the suction gauge. Carb temp's important. We're on the ground, so we're using filtered air. That's the flap lever. And this is carb heat, just in case the carburetor temperature gets below zero. You don't want it to, it'll freeze up. That's how you keep it from freezing up. You pull this lever down to hot. But we're good. It's 15 degrees out. I don't think we're going to be freezing today. Oh, and there's our, you see the temperature's almost to 40, and the oil pressure is almost or within range. The other thing to check is the fuel pressure. If the booster's not on, oh, look, it's not making a difference. Nothing. What if we go to idle RPM? Okay, fuel booster off. Ah, now it makes a difference. So watch as I change the fuel booster here, how the fuel pressure changes. So the fuel pump is driven by the engine RPM. So if the engine's spinning fast, you don't really need the fuel booster, although DCS doesn't seem to let you turn it off and reliably keep your engines going. So in real life, you turn it off because it's an electric motor and you don't want to wear it out. In DCS, it doesn't happen. You just leave it. Leave this on all the time. Okay, and we can start taxiing. Press on our brakes. You see the parking brake went off there. I'll show you one more time. Press the brakes down, pull the brake lever out, let go. Now the parking brake's engaged. Press on the brakes again. I'm not going to touch the lever. Boop, the lever goes in. Okay, let's taxi. Just crack the throttle a little bit. In the P-51, you pull back on the stick, and that makes your rudder steer your tail wheel. And you'll actually see it. I actually see it here. So the rudder and the tail wheel are kind of attached. There's bungees or springs or something to provide some flex, so you don't end up tearing the rudder off if something knocks the tail wheel. Okay, let's taxi to the end of the runway. And again, stick back. If the stick is forward, then it's freewheeling, and there's someone's transmitting there. And you see we're spinning around. Also, if I hit the stick forward, so if I hit the brakes, you can spin around like that. That's just one brake.
Kind of hit the wrong thing.
Oh, also, so let's turn the lights on, radio on. Those guys are on the guard channel. That's why we're hearing them. Okay. So when you want to make sharp turns, you use your toe brakes on your rudder pedals there. Left, right, left, right. And when you want to make gradual slow turns, you can pull the stick back and the tail wheel locks to the rudder. It doesn't lock to the rudder though unless they're in pretty much the same position. What happens, this is a good question, let's answer this now. What happens if we get our tail wheel all to the side? Okay. So the tail wheel's pointing to the side, the rudder is straight. What happens if I pull back on the stick now? Does the tail wheel go back until it locks and then, okay, I guess it just kind of falls into place once it passes the position of the rudder. But you do have to move a little bit to get that tail wheel to align with the rudder if it's not lined up already. And that'll typically happen when you take the runway because you just made a 90-degree turn. So you need to be aware that often you need to just move forward a little bit before you start your takeoff roll. So we'll go find the end of the runway. Whoa, whoa. Just about drove over some grass there. Not that it matters. We've got nice big fat wheels. Okay. Ailerons work. Elevators work. Woo. Is this the correct runway? Or is there another one? I think there's another one. Yeah, it's... yes. I think this runway's closed. We want the one over here. I feel like this would be one of the more difficult parts of learning to fly in the real world is how do you navigate your way around the airports? How do you communicate with the tower and know which ramps to take and all that stuff? Okay, so getting on the brakes here. We don't want to stop too fast or our nose will nose into the ground. Okay. And we're just looking for traffic before we take this runway. I don't see any. We'll leave our canopy open. That helps them pull our body from the burning wreckage if we crash. There's a landing light there. Where's the switch for it? Oops. Right there. That's turned on there. We don't need it. It's daytime. And anything else we're forgetting? Oh, well, yeah, let's go back and look at this. So now the temperature is 50, and even if I give it a lot of RPM, that's still... It didn't used to do this. It used to be once it hit 40, you couldn't get too much oil pressure. Now, even with the dilution I added, it's going over a bit. Anyway, I know it will be fine. The other thing we do is uncage our artificial horizon. They weren't very good in World War II, so when you drive around, you tend to topple your gyro. So basically, anytime you find yourself flying straight and level, and you can see the horizon, it's a good time you come up here and you press this again, and reset your gyro. And there we go. So now we're straight, and again we make sure we move forward a little bit so our tail wheel is straight. Okay. Rudder, ailerons, elevators, everything work. Of course, in real life you have to do that from within the plane. There's that back seat I was telling you about. And again, in a real trainer there would be controls back there. They should, DCS, Eagle Dynamics, hey guys, you want to do something great for us? Put controls. Well, first of all, just make it so we can have another player join us in the back seat just as an observer. That would be cool enough just to be able to take someone for a ride in the TF-51. But if you really wanted to do us a favor, you could put controls back there. I know that'll probably never happen, but even just to take an observer it'd be good for showing your friend the game. You can take them on a tour. Just let them sit back there and look around. It'd be fun. Okay. So, stick back to lock our rudder. Also, it's going to keep our tail wheel firm on the ground while we're starting out here. And it's going to want to swing to the left from the engine torque. That's why we trimmed the rudder a little bit to the right. And just little stabs of rudder as you go will keep you on course. Okay. Here we go. And you can pretty much give it full throttle on your takeoff run, gradually, not all at once. But about 50 on the manifold says to work. Once you get up to a certain speed, you can put your nose forward. You don't want to fly too early, you want to get enough speed to fly reliably. And then we can just pull up, and we're flying. Bringing the gear up. The gear lever is right here. Whoa! Okay, coming back on the manifold and the prop pitch control. So we want the prop pitch controls, or sorry, I should say it's really a prop speed control. So 27 on the RPM and 46 on the manifold pressure. And that's your maximum cruise. You can fly like that all day without worrying about blowing up your engine. Oh, and let's close our canopy before we get too much airspeed to do it. In fact, that's slow exactly because we're fast. Okay. Okay, now we get to think about trim. This thing we call the ball, slip ball. It shows you, well, I'm not going to be able to explain side slip. Anyway, what you do with your rudder is they call it step on the ball. You push your feet towards whichever side the ball is to keep the plane in coordinated flight. But that gets annoying. So what can we do to not have to do that all the time? That's where we use our trim. So remember, we trim the rudder 6, put it back to, well, we don't do it visually, we do it by looking at the instruments. So we step on the ball with the trim knob. There. I'm not touching the rudder pedals at all now. And she wants to dive a bit, so I'm pulling back on the elevator trim. And there, now she's trimmed. I am completely hands-off controls now, not touching anything. And that is how you start the P-51. Oh, one more thing to be aware of. Again, there's a left fuel tank in the left wing. That's where you fill it up. Same thing with the right wing. That's where you fill it up, and these are the gauges for the respective tanks down on the floor. The tanks run right in from the wing, from about, the tanks end about here, just outboard of the filler cap, and they come almost to the center of the aircraft. And these gauges are actually right in the top of the tanks. These holes in the floor help you see those gauges. Okay, so there's a, is that where we took off from? Doesn't matter. So, the idea is you fly for 10 minutes on one tank and then change over to the other tank. Try and keep them even. Otherwise you end up with more weight on one side of the plane and it's hard to fly. Okay, we're coming back on the throttle. I'm just going to do a quick landing here. See the whole thing. Bit of left rudder trim. Very important to watch our speed. Anything under 170 we can put our gear down. So let's do that. And then the other thing. Oh, I see. There's the field we took off from. The 2 runways. And the big radar. We'll go back there. And keep her under 170 with the gear down. Otherwise we'll break something, blow our gear doors off, something like that. And start putting the flaps down. You can put 1 notch of flaps down in the P-51 at any speed, which is can be useful in combat for helping you turn better. And then I forget what the speeds for the other flap settings are, but I'm sure we're slow enough now, about 130. Now the more we put the flaps down, the more drag we get and the more engine power we're going to need to compensate for it. I'm giving her some up trim because she's wanting to dive. Tweaking the rudder trim just a little. Once again, we're hands off. I'm not even touching the plane. Flying itself. So that's where we're going to land. We're going to loop out here, do a base leg over this way, and then our final approach. This is called the downwind leg. I'm assuming the wind is blowing this way, from right to left. Actually, if we can see a chimney, that's one way to find out. So my flaps are only about halfway down now. I've still got another couple of notches. I can put them down, but again, they add drag, so until we get on final, that's enough flap. Keep her right around 130 here. We want to cross the runway threshold just over 100 miles an hour. Okay, I'm going to extend just a little bit so that we'll come in straight. About give her a bit more throttle here. Also, we're going to turn, which also takes a bit more power than flying straight. So, okay, start our turn onto the base leg. Really, it's just going to be one big gradual turn, right to landing. Some rudder, right rudder, Again, I'm keeping that ball centered. This guy. More flaps. More flaps. So that's all the flaps there. You can see they're almost... That must be almost 80 degrees or so. Okay. Speed is good. We're a little high. So I'm coming back on the throttle and letting her dive. Watching that speed. Very important to not let it fall below about 110 or she'll fall out of the sky. Okay, we are too high. You just learn after a while what the angles are. You know what? We're going to make it anyway. Oh, of course the server's restarting right when I'm going to do my landing and getting this message in my face. Damn it. Anyway, what you want to do, so I'm completely back on the throttle now. Flaps are down all the way. Flaring. Whoa. Whoa. And then you just want to fly just an inch above the run. Oh. Anyway, you want to fly about an inch above the runway and the plane will just settle down on all 3 gear at once. That's the best way to do it. There you go. That's how to start, fly, and land the P-51 Mustang DCS. See you later. Like and subscribe.